With Tem Lokabu gone, where does Boston College need to go with their defensive coordinator position? We went over some options about some internal candidates, but I think I left off one giant name that could end up as defensive coordinator for Boston College in 2023. We're going to get into that on today's show.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
On Boston College. I am AJ Black, editor and publisher of Eagle Insider. Check out my work there and follow me on Twitter. On today's show, we looked on yesterday. We talked about Tem Lokabu leaving for the Carolina Panthers. And I had heard from sources that most likely it's going to come from an internal candidate. And I went on and on about how I thought it would be Azar Abdul-Rahim. But listener Dennis Monahan brought up a name that I had failed to mention as a potential candidate, and it honestly makes a lot of sense. And who would that be? That would be head coach Jeff Hafley. Could Hafley take over as defensive coordinator this upcoming season? It's not as weird as you think. Many teams have their head coach take over the coordinator position. We've seen it happen before. Could Hafley do that? It would be weirder things have happened. So why could this make sense? Let's look at this. All right. As many folks have said, it's 2 weeks before spring practice. And I've said that too. That's hard. You're never going to find you're never going to find a outside candidate at this point of the coaching search. And that's not on Hafley. It's just because of the way the NFL works. It's just tough. I mean, you could. I mean, they definitely could go out there and find someone. It's just tougher at this point. You can't, slowly take your time to vet them out, especially if they're trying to bring in someone with a new set of eyes. However, as I said before, this search is going to get you someone that is connected to Hafley. Someone that he knows and trusts. And who does he know and trust better than himself? No one. And this honestly, this makes sense. This makes sense. Because Hafley, where has he found success as a defensive coordinator? He was successful at Ohio State. He has success on the defensive side of the ball. He was an up-and-coming defensive coordinator when Boston College hired him in 2019. Where has he found his weaknesses? It's the other stuff, right? Game management, offensive side of the ball. Well, if he kind of splits this role up a little bit and splits up how this team is run, this could honestly work out for Boston College. Because what do? You have Jeff Hafley kind of manage the game. In closer games, we have it's been a couple years since he's really had to kind of manage some of those big game situations. But we'll have to wait and see how he does there. And that's up for debate on how he'd do there. But defensively, he'd run the huddles. He'd run the drills. He talked about that last year when we were at practice, when I went to some of BC's practice, that he finds himself still ingrained in those defensive huddles. That is where he's comfortable. Would it make sense just to have him calling the plays? He's probably doing it a lot of it anyways. And as I've heard from my sources, the defense is not going to change next year. So it's not like he was going to bring anyone in and just change up the scheme. It's going to be the same thing. Whether you like it or not, that's what he's planning on doing. So if it's going to be his system, why not have Hafley call it? Why not have Hafley run that part of it and have Rob Chudzinski, a established offensive coordinator, run the offense? You basically have two coaches, right? You have Hafley doing all the bigger stuff off the field. He's running the recruiting meetings. He's running the personnel stuff. But on the field, you have Hafley run the defense. You have Chud run the offense. And, the final say goes to Chudzinski. You could put Shimko in the box so that you have him above because you have co-offensive coordinators. You have Chud down there next to Hafley, where the two of them can kind of hash out what they're going to do. I mean, sometimes if you have two coaches, I think that could cause some issues, but things aren't working. They weren't working in 2021 and 2022. Why not take a chance? Try something different here. Because if it came down to it, if you were able to decide who the next defensive coordinator was going to be, would you rather it be Azar Abdul-Rahim? I mean, as I said on yesterday's show, I someone ripped me on it on Twitter, and I agree. I called it a home run. I think I jumped the gun on that. I think he's a solid coach and one I wouldn't hate having here. Home run was not the right term, and I apologize for using that. But would I rather have AAR or Hafley? I would probably choose Hafley because he's been an established defensive coordinator. Okay? So, some questions in here. Football fan always has the greatest, I love his, negative Nancy take, and it's nothing wrong with this. Yes, but who will take over as head coach? He's not, and Jenna Teller, or BS, excuse me, Jenna, said, but why would Hafley demote himself? Hafley wouldn't demote himself. There's been coaches that take on the coordinator role on top of what they're doing. I want to say Chip. I'm not positive. I had some names in front of me earlier today, and I forgot to write them down. But there have been college coaches that have been the head coach and a coordinator. A lot of time it's on the offensive side of the ball, but you do see it happening. This is not like something that's completely out of left field. It's not like something that we haven't seen happen before. It can happen. And then what do? You have an extra coaching position, right? Because you have an X amount of coaching slots, you could get a secondary coach, or, you name it, you could add another coach that could recruit another position for you. So it's a thought. It's something that you can think of. Marty Party says, Hafley is no Belichick. Yes, he's not Bill Belichick. But I'm thinking of different options here for BC. And yes, it may not be the best option, but this could be something that could happen in 2023. And we'll have to wait and see what happens. I still think it'll probably be AAR, but Dennis brings up a good point here. Hafley is going to have his system in place. Why not just have him run the defense? It's not the worst thing in the world. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But in a moment, I want to look at the the future for BC. And some folks have been calling me on some things about what I think about Boston College. And I want to kind of address some of the people and the idea that I've been too positive about BC. And I'll explain my rationale in just a moment. But if you want to hear me be positive, you need to hear me be positive about the Built Bars. If you're looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat a little healthier this year. And if you're like me, where you want to eat healthier but don't want to compromise taste, then man, I got the thing for you. You got to try Built. They're 100% covered in real chocolate. I'm telling you, folks, real chocolate is delicious, and they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does this, but their bars taste like a candy bar. I have them in my house. I have them as an afternoon snack. They give me the fuel I need to get through the end of my busy day, and the flavors are unbelievable. Now, if you want to get a Built Bar, you can go to Built.com. That's an easy way to get all the latest flavors, but you could also head to your local Walmart or Sam's Club. Sam's Club has 13 bar boxes with our hit flavors, brownie batter and churro, and Walmart has 4 bar boxes of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. So head on over to Built.com or your local Walmart to get your box of Built. All right, this is Locked On BC, AJ Black. So I want to talk about my perception of where this program is at, and realistically kind of just gauging where the program is currently sitting. And yes, I as I said on an earlier episode with Mitch this week, being negative doesn't serve anything. If I just went on this show for the next 180 days and just said this team sucks and nothing is worth listening or watching about this, you will all tune out. But being disingenuous about where this program is going doesn't serve me either. And I want to say that I am not being disingenuous when I think the program is not worse off than it was at the end of 2022. And here's why. Turn your clock back a month. Go back to the middle of January before some of the latest news cycles started. Where was BC at? They had landed 8 transfers. Hafley fired John McNulty. He fired Dave DeGuglielmo. And what did most people think about where this program was going? Verbatim, what I heard was a lot of folks saying, this program's heading in the right direction. Hafley learned his lesson. He got transfers. He fired coaches that weren't working. I felt like that was probably mostly true. It seemed like a young coach had started to understand that some of the things that he was doing were mistakes and had moved on from those mistakes and did decisions he wouldn't have done 2 years ago. Now, I'm not saying he's perfect, but at that point, I think most of BC Nation was feeling pretty good of where Hafley at least was going at that point. Fast forward 2 weeks. What happens? He hasn't named an offensive coordinator. I had said on yesterday's show that he has hired an offense. I've said on the last 2 weeks that he's hired an offensive coordinator, plural, Steve Shimko and Rob Jasinski, but they haven't announced it yet. And then his defensive coordinator jumps for the NFL. Why now all I hear is the program is in shambles because they didn't announce an offense. I mean, they have the offensive coordinators in place because they didn't announce it to the fans. That makes this program in shambles. I mean, sure, I understand that you want to hear about it. Man, if I was paying season ticket prices or donating to this program, I'd want to know who the offensive coordinator is. And in that sense, yeah, that is absolutely a failure on this program. If they know exactly who it's going to be and they can get that word out fast, yeah, that's what you'd want from a football team. That didn't happen. We're still waiting. But does that mean the program itself is in trouble? I don't think so. I don't think that's what that means. And then your defensive coordinator jumps to an NFL job on a very attractive coaching staff. As I said on yesterday's show, the Carolina Panthers, if you're a young coach, you would jump hoops to get on that staff because they're going to go and do some things that I think are going to make your future that much easier to name your next destination. Much more than BC. And that's not a knock at BC. I mean, it does show you that the program is not at the best spot it's at. But you're in the NFL. You're on a staff that's coached by an up-and-coming young coach. That's a opportunity right there. And yeah, you're taking a position that is lower than what you're getting at, but the opportunities are much higher. So you lost a coach that you fired, haven't named a coach to the public yet, and then lost a coach of the NFL to an attractive job, but that means the program is a disaster? I don't see that. I mean, I need to wait. I need to wait to see what happens on the field. Believe me, if BC goes out there next year and they lose to NIU, they lose to UConn again, they lose to Holy Cross, sure, this program would be a disaster. And then Hafley deserves to be fired. And man, they need to go in a different direction. But right now, this time and place, I have a hard time saying that this program is in worse shape than they were at the end of last year. I just don't. I just don't. I just don't see it. Now, let's go to the comment section because there's a lot of commenters on YouTube. And if you are not a YouTube subscriber to our channel, you need to get that onto that right now. All you do is go to Locked On Boston College on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. You'll be part of our Boston College army. I'd love to see you all there. Let's go over and see what some folks have had to say. Mark Falzone says, AJ, why do you think they are delaying the OC announcement? I've heard it's an HR thing. It's nothing more than an HR thing. It's not a football program thing. They're waiting just to, sign the dots and finish those contracts. I don't think it's anything more than that. All right. SJ73 says, definitely in a better position now than they were at the end of last season. I mean, I have a hard time. I mean, I still am going to sit with the issue on this team last year was the offensive line, and its issues spread through everything. There were other issues. Sure, this team wasn't perfect, but that was such a major issue that it caused everything to fall apart, and they addressed that. They addressed that in spades, at least in my opinion for now. Football fan says, AJ, Hafley's contract is through 2026. Do you honestly believe that BC will fire him if there is another 5-6 win season, stuck for 2 to 3 years with a patchwork coaching staff? I've heard that the hot seat is real, and this is not just some podcaster saying this. I'm hearing. This is not like sources I've talked to have said this. So I believe if Hafley has a bad year, this will be it. They're not going to sit with him for another couple of years. They will pay the buyout to get him out. I promise you, that's what I've heard. I think that's what's going to happen. Okay. Continuing on. Okay. Football fan says it's hard to be worse than 3-9. Yeah, it's not much. And then we had Marty Party gotta run the week OOC schedule. There is no reason BC shouldn't win 4 games next year out of conference. Of course, they easily could. This is Boston College we're talking about here. But they've got to do that. Now, in our final segment, I'm going to go to basketball. I'm going to look at basketball and talk about Quinten Post and whether I think he has the potential to end up in the NBA. I'm going to look at that in just a moment. But before we do that, I want to get into our good friends over at LinkedIn. Now, if you're a small business owner or hiring manager, you know that success in 2023 all depends on the team members you surround yourself with. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have had the skills, success, and experiences to help achieve your goals. LinkedIn Jobs help you quickly attract qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools. They go beyond resume data by using insights from your job post, company, and their 875 million members to link you to your qualified candidates. It makes it easy. It's easy to screen applicants, rate applicants on your job qualifications, all on one platform. So LinkedIn Jobs help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Locked on BC, AJ Black here. We're wrapping up our show today. And I've been talking about BC football and the lots of news that has come down about changes that are going on within this program. But we're going to switch this over and talk about basketball now. And basketball now has as many wins as they have had, I think, in the last 10 or 12 years. And they're close to matching anything that's happened under Steve Donahue and Jim Christian. Oh, man, that was a blunder. If they can win at least 1 or 2 more games. On Wednesday, they're going to face off against UVA. As I said, it's going to be a massively tough game for the Eagles. And one name I want to talk about, and I had been thinking about this, is Quinten Post. Will he be an NBA player? And I talked a little bit about this on yesterday's show because it was something that came up. And I've been looking at what he's done. He's the only player this year to go 5 for 5 from 3-point range that's over 7 feet tall. Just think about that. There's only been, I think, 6 guys in the last 25 years that did what he did in that game, and Quinten Post is one of them. Now, he's not I don't think of him as a complete player. He's a 7-foot tall guy, but when he plays a bit bigger body center down low, I don't see him as this first round pick. That being said, there's plenty of 7-footers that have had success in the NBA because they can shoot an outside shot. NBA teams love stretch centers, and Quinten Post fits that to a T. I mean, he was unconscious against Florida State with the way he was shooting that ball. So I think he could find the role. And will he be the next, start Reggie Jackson or, it's been a while, Jared Dudley, that is a BC player that has a long starting career? No. But you find a bench, many teams are going to find a bench role for Post because he causes so many matchup problems. You throw him at the 3-point line and know that he's hitting shots at almost 47% from 3-point range. The teams are going to salivate over that. And they're going to, he is very much worth a second-round draft pick. Now, the big question then remains, we've seen what BC does with Post. They need him back next year. Oh, my gosh, they need him back because they need a full season with him because he would have prevented so many of these stupid out-of-conference losses that BC had. And I think, if they had not lost those dumb games to Maine, UNH, Tarleton State, this team would be an NIT team. And then we'd be talking about how successful Earl Grant was. But he was out. He is so integral to this offense. We need him back. But if he starts getting second-round draft grades, he's got to know that it's not going to get better than that. I believe he's 23 years old. He's not going to get any better. Is there a potential to me, it seems like a strong potential that Post doesn't come back next year. If he hears from NBA teams that they'll take him in the second round, because that to him is going to be a ticket to at least try it. He's got to figure that out. That's bad. If BC loses him, their offense is going to take a big step back next year. They're going to have to figure out a new way of running this offense. And Donald Hand may be that answer. And believe me, Devin McLaughlin looks like he's turning it on. But how many of these guys are they bringing in at the big role that are projects? Armani Mighty, I don't know how many years he's going to take to get ready. I've heard from the new guy, Jaden Hastings. He looks like a guy on the offensive side that needs some time. BC really can't just keep taking steps back when they lose a guy. So if Post leaves, they're going to have to figure something out because he is going to be a major loss. Hopefully, he'll have one more year. Hopefully, he sees okay, I'm going to try one more time to do something special. Because, maybe his thought is, even after next year, I'll still be a second-round draft pick. I'd love to see Post come back one more time. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. Thank you so much, everyone. If you have not done so already, please hit that subscribe button. If you want daily BC podcasts sent directly to your YouTube, if you want to know when we go live, hit that bell too. We have a great comment section, and I'm sorry I can't get every comment out there because you guys are great. But there are so many of you out there that are so great. I want you all to come back every night to talk BC sports. This week, as I said, I can't tell you exactly. I'm away right now. I'm actually in a ski house in New Hampshire. So I'm recording when I can. But usually I record around 8 o'clock every night. And I'd love for you to join us and talk BC sports because we need to keep talking about it so that we can have a fun time here watching some programs that need a little boost. This is AJ Black. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack_BC. We'll be back again tomorrow to get ready for the Virginia game and any news that pops. We will be there to talk about it. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon.